the man who would remain president. Robert Mugabe emerged this morning from 3 days of house arrest to don a cap and a gown and hand out university degrees. Outside, across the road, his people watch the cars pull in and out, the youngest amongst them unaware that it is their future at stake in the slow-motion power struggle gripping Zimbabwe. That most people here are desperate for change is undeniable, as is the hardship they live in.
We must go and leave some young people to rule the country.
It's time for a change.
Yes.
Agatha supports 3 children selling cloth by the side of the road close to the university. She's nervous about speaking to us.
Here to speak about politics, you will be in trouble. You'll get into a big trouble. You can be beaten.
The army is still negotiating an exit with Mugabe with the hopes that he'll go willingly. But his critics say he's trying to buy time.
This pretense that things are normal, going to Zoo University and keeping people, hey, it's pretense. We won't accept it. It's finished.
The president of the War Veterans Association is calling for a mass demonstration tomorrow to insist that Mugabe go.
We are saying we are giving a warning, a very stark warning to Mugabe, to his wife, and to anybody who still wants to be associated with him, that the game is up, finished, done. We won't allow this to go any further.
Even Mugabe's own ruling party, ZANU-PF, is turning on him. National leaders warning they'll introduce a no-confidence vote against him if he doesn't step down. Back at the graduation, Mugabe didn't seem too worried, dreaming perhaps of better days. But across the street, his people are dreaming too.
Well, let's get some more from Margaret Evans in Harare. And let's begin with the political question, Margaret. Why is Mugabe's party speaking against him today?
Many of the people who are pitted against Mugabe now fought in the liberation war with him. They are the war veterans, and they used to be very tight. After that liberation war, when Mugabe came to power, he was very generous with the country and thinking about the people, trying to alleviate poverty, bringing up literacy rates. But he soon started to use wealth to maintain his power, and he used fear as well. And that meant a lot of patronage to the war veterans to keep them on side, big pensions, apartments, all of that. Then he got married to a young bride, and the patronage shifted in her direction. And then when she started to show political aspirations, and he seemed to be helping her along, that's when you started to see this big split within the ZANU-PF party, and people saying, we can't let that happen. And this is the culmination of what you're seeing right now.
You mentioned how anxious that woman was who was selling fabric, about talking about police, for example. And give me a sense more widely of the sort of the mood, the anxiety, I guess, of people there.
Yeah, it's a really weird mood here because, people keep saying, oh, everything's going along as normal, but there really is a kind of an underlying kind of subdued feel to everything. And yeah, people are afraid. I mean, when we first arrived and kind of coming out of the airport, our driver said to us, people are nervous because they're not used to seeing guns on the street that often, but also because there is, when things get rough politically here, things can turn violent very quickly. And the woman speaking to me earlier that you're talking about was saying, I don't want to be beaten up, just by telling me, how she felt about Robert Mugabe. Everything was very, very quiet.
All right. Margaret Evans, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And as Margaret mentioned, Mugabe's road to power was once paved with good intentions, but it didn't take long for that to go very bad.
Immediately you talk of multiracialism, you are accepting as a starting point that the races are different.
The story of Robert Mugabe begins in black and white. In the 1960s, he championed rights for black Africans in southern Rhodesia, a colony struggling in a post-colonial era. There's a better way, Mugabe told then CBC correspondent Morley Safer.
Everybody must be accorded his full political rights, whether he be white or black, educated or uneducated, rich or poor.
Soon, racial tensions turned into civil war. Mugabe was imprisoned for most of it, but still supported guerrilla fighters. In 1980, peace talks brought calm and a new country, Zimbabwe. Democratic elections put Mugabe in control.
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Zimbabwe.
A revolutionary, now prime minister to a coalition government. There was even talk of a Nobel Peace Prize. But just a few years later, unable to share power, he hunted down his political rivals.
My government will never rest until those within that party are crushed and crushed fully.
Thousands were killed, but Zimbabwe did enjoy a brief period of economic prosperity until that crashed against corruption and cronyism. Mugabe blamed something else.
White farmers have no right to that land in the first place.
Mugabe went after white Zimbabweans who were shocked to see their farmland seized.
The only problem is that I've got a white skin and I have been told that I'm not doing enough for the country.
But the land went to Mugabe's friends. The economy got worse. People starved. They counted their money by the trillion, becoming the world's most inflated currency. Some voices would rise against Mugabe, but were beaten and crushed by pro-government thugs.
And there is violence. Kuti my elections were not free and fair, which is a damn lie.
As well as ignored and invalidated by the man in charge. So the face of Zimbabwe endured, the only leader it's ever known, keeping himself in power and with privilege. And the pressure against Mugabe is about to get more intense. Thousands of people of all political stripes expected to join those street protests tomorrow. And then on Sunday, the ZANU-PF's Central Committee is slated to hold an emergency meeting where, as we've heard, it may pass a resolution of non-confidence in Mugabe's rule.